Okay, gang, section 3.3, number 13. Let me just write this in its fractional equivalent form. So remember, radicals, you want to rewrite them in their fractional equivalent. Now this can be rewritten, bringing this up and doing it as a product rule, but I want you guys to practice the quotient rule. So we're going to do this as a quotient rule. So if you're not sure of the rule, make sure you have it out or you're looking at it so you know it as we go through it. All right, so here we go. So I'm doing the derivative now. I'm going to follow the quotient rule. So we take the denominator and we multiply it times the derivative of the numerator. Order matters in the quotient rule because you have to get the negative in front of the correct half. All right, so we did denominator times derivative of numerator. Now we're going to leave the numerator alone, and we're going to take the derivative of the denominator all over the denominator squared. Okay, so that's the derivative. What you're going to see me do now is just simplification. And like I said, in calculus, the algebra can get ferocious. You're going to get really, well, in pre-calc is where you get really good at this, but wow, is the algebra and calc's really going to make your skills very sharp. All right, so I'm just going to do some basic combining because it makes it easier for the students to understand what I'm doing. So I'll start with that, just some basic combining. Some people go right to the common factor, which is fine if you do that. You could change the order of this. You don't have to. It doesn't matter. It's the back half that I'm really concerned about squishing together. I sort of like the shorter terms in the front. All right, so I'm going to squeeze this together. So x to the 1/2 times x squared. You add the exponents. That's going to be 5/2, right? Because that's 2.5 as an improper fraction. That's 5/2. All right, and as I mentioned before, when you have in another example I did, when you have a fraction inside a fraction, that's a complex fraction, and that's considered not simplified. So even though this guy is not a common factor, it has to get pulled out because the final answer cannot be a complex fraction, which it is right now. All right, so the 1/2 is not a common factor, but it has to get pulled. The smallest exponent here is x to the -1/2. And that's the only common factors we have. So now I'm going to go in for the leftovers. All right, so for the first term, so for this term, the front term, I took out the 1/2. I took out the x to the -1/2. I'm left with x cubed plus 1. You do not need the parentheses because there's nothing in front of them being multiplied. They're considered non-essential. I'll erase them in a moment, okay? Now here's the minus sign, which separates the front term from the back term. And now I'm going to take the common factor out of the back term. Now remember, it didn't have a half, so I have to counterbalance that. So 1/2 times 6 would be 3. It's just easier for most people to do that backwards. All right, now make sure you subtract this. This is 5/2 minus a -1/2. So it's 5/2. You always minus the common factor when it's an exponent. But the common factor is negative, which means you're going to actually be adding. So it's 5/2 plus 1/2, or 6/2, which is 3. All right, so like I said earlier, since these are non-essential, I'm now going to pull them off because there's nothing multiplied in front of them that would change those terms. Okay, so a couple things left to do now. We want to combine like terms in here, so let me start there. So it's like -1 x hold on, do I have the, yeah, it's a, I couldn't read my own handwriting there for a second. Let me fix that. Okay, so I have 1x cubed minus 6x cubed. So it's like 1 strawberry minus 6 strawberries. So it's negative 5x cubed. And then plus the 1. And again, if you don't like the order of this, you can swap it. Some people don't like the negative in the front, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's in descending order. The 1/2, again, you can multiply by a half or you could divide by 2. It's the same concept. This common factor can flip down as a common denominator. Just a reminder, it can only come in the bottom when it's a common factor. If it's not a common factor, it would flip down in its own fraction, which is different. Let me not lose the thing that's down here, which is this. All right, so this is h prime of x. So this answer right here is really nice. The only suggestion I could make if you want to just really fine tune it is you could write this as radical x, you know, but that's optional. If you want to fine tune it, you could write it like this, which is lovely. Okay? All right, gang, that's it on this. I'll catch you in another video. Hope you enjoyed it.